What's going on, guys? My name is Rumble Skrash. In today's video we're gonna be doing a brand new tier list video of the best teams in PvP. Now, I wasn't really happy with the way I was doing the previous tier list of best teams, and I wasn't really happy of the way that normally these kind of tier list videos are done. So because I think it's very subjective, it's just about me putting the order that I want and then try to justify myself, and I didn't really feel like that was showing why a team was that strong or not, and it was kind of weird. So I have decided I have been thinking for a long time on how I could do this in a better way. So I have finally decided, probably it's not the best way, but it's definitely a better way to do it. To do two alignment charts, and in these two alignment charts I'm gonna be representing if a team beats a certain particular meta team or not, and the teams is gonna be the best if it beats the majority of these meta teams. Now, the order that you see right here, it's not representative at all. It doesn't mean anything. So it's just a chart where you can see for what character a team is gonna be represented by, because I'm gonna be doing two alignment charts, and in each of these alignment charts I'm gonna be representing each team by just one icon of a character. So here you can see the name of the character and the team that it's representing. So basically it's very straightforward. All the variations of the slasher team are represented by the character that changes. So Shanks Crew, Halloween Law, B3 Law, Rare Crit in Warashi, Fortnite in Warashi. Here in the Rainbow team, it's represented by Rayleigh B2 because I thought it was kind of misleading to put the Dofi. And then we have the in team. I want to mention something about the in team, the Dex team, and the side team that you're gonna be seeing. That there's a lot of variations of these teams, so this is just one variation. But as it's not, in my opinion, the best teams or anything, it's just like they work in a similar way in general. So I have decided to include the in team in the same category. So using Halloween Law, Halloween Shanks, the old school in team. I mean, not probably the int crit team because the int crit team doesn't work that well, but yeah, and then the same for the Dex and side teams. Now here we have the 8-man Rainbow team that I showcased in my previous video. So just one thing to mention about this team, this Kaku is very important. I mean, not the Kaku, but this particular bench, it's very important. So and I also showed in that video some other variations of some other 8-man Rainbow teams that you could build to go up against the slashers. So this team works really well against the slashers, but we're gonna be talking about how it performs against other teams. And then the last we have the Raid Mihawk variation of the slashers. So we're gonna actually start with the alignment chart. How we are gonna be doing it, it's basically each axis of each of the two alignment charts that I'm gonna be doing, it's gonna be representing a team or an idea of a team. And if a team, for example, if the meta team, so that idea of the team, is represented by the horizontal axis, if a team is more to the right, it's gonna mean that it's beating that variation, and if it's more to the left, it's gonna mean that it's losing, and the same up and down for the vertical axis. But without further ado, let's start with the first alignment chart. Here we have the first alignment chart. So as I mentioned, we're going to be doing two alignment charts, and each axis of each alignment chart is going to be representing an idea of a team. So I needed 4 meta teams in quote-unquote, and I think in global right now we can all agree that the quote-unquote meta teams are the slashers, the rainbow, or the in team. This is mainly what you see every time. Other teams that you see probably are just a defense to try to bait slashers into attacking them or stuff like that. So these are probably the strongest teams that you can build variations with. So I thought it was appropriate to put this team. So I have split the slashers, because it's a very strong team, into 2 variations. So the fast slashers, which is including the B3 Law variation and the Halloween Law variation, as well as some other variations, and also the tanky slashers, which is including for example, the Shanks Crew or the Rare Crit in Warashi, but also some other weird variations that you could build with it. So the order in which we're gonna be analyzing this, it's not gonna be representative at all. It's just kind of random. So the first one that we have here, it's the kit, which is represented the Dex team. Now the Dex team doesn't really perform well against slashers. So for example, against the tanky slashers, it kind of loses. I mean, as it's kind of tanky, it doesn't lose as much as it does against the fast slasher. So we're gonna be putting the Dex team somewhere around here probably. Then we have the 419 Orashi. Just by the way, so for example, if we are looking at the fast slashers, if the team is here, it means that it's winning 50% of the times. If it's here, it's more like 60, 70, stuff like that. So against fast slashers, it actually performs really, really well. For example, against the variation of B3 low, which is the main one that I have been testing this team against, it works again around 60, 70 even percent of the time. So I'm gonna be leaving it light here. And against tanky slashers, it kind of works too, like not as much as well as the other, but the special of this 419 Warashi can actually be countering the passive, so the defense of the passive of Shankscrew, so that's gonna be really great. But it doesn't perform as well, I think, against the rare Kitten Warashi variation, so that's why I'm leaving it here. So here we have the 8-man variation that I haven't mentioned of the slashers with Carrot. I showcased it in one of my videos, so if you want to check it out, you have it here on top. So that team worked pretty well against the fast slashers. I would say not as well as this 419 Orashi variation, but I think against tanky slashers it kind of loses a little bit, because if you don't actually get your specials to activate before the first 30 seconds and stuff like that because of some bad RNG factor, then yeah, you just have kind of a useless unit there, which is not giving either defense down or anything, and it's gonna be pretty hard to beat the tanky slashers. Now we have the variation with Raid Mihawk. So I tested this variation, and it's kind of more like 50-50, maybe a little bit over against fast slashers. But it works really, really well against tanky slashers, because you have a pretty massive health cut, which can help you kill the slashers, even though if they have a lot of defense. So I'm gonna be putting it like this. So it's a little bit over the 50% against fast slashers, but it works really well against tanky slashers. And now we have one of my favorite teams. So here I have the rare Cretino Arashi team. And if you wanna check out the things that this team can do, go check this video here on top, because it's quite amazing what this team can accomplish. It's a 7-man team, and in where I explained what units did this team have, there was this Sobo Mask as the 7th unit on the bench. You can also use Rare Recruit NL there, because it's really nice to have the late game defense. And it's really useful actually, and normally in this team the Solo Mask doesn't get to activate at least the first time under the first 40 seconds, under the 40-second mark, so it's not that big of a difference if you get like the 1.8 times multiplier of Rare Recruit NL instead of the 2 times multiplier of the Solo Mask. So I really like this team, and if you have seen that video, you will have seen that this team is massive against fast slashers, both of the variations, Halloween Law and B3 Law. I mean, probably a little bit higher than the 419 Orashi. And then against tanky slashers, I have been testing it a lot, and it works really, really well. Maybe even a little bit better than the Raid Mihawk, because that early damage, just think that, for example, against the Shankscrew variation, that early damage is not affected by, for example, the passive of Shankscrew, stuff like that, so it can work really nice. But as inside the tanky slashers, I'm including also these same variations. It's more like a mirror team, so it's 50-50. So I will put it a little bit down. So that's a little bit of the inconvenience of a particular team being inside these ranks. So half of the teams that is represented each of these axes, it's like the same team, so it's a little bit more 50-50. So I will put it like the same as this, but it's definitely the highest one that can go up against the fast slashers, so more like this, I would say. Then we have the side team. So the side team obviously doesn't perform as well against slashers. I would say it does lose against both of the variations, but not as much. So I think I'm gonna be leaving it more like this, so not as much as the Dex team I meant. So then we have the stock standard variation of the slashers. We have the B3 Law variation, and yeah, as I mentioned with the Rare Kitten Orashi variation, as the fast slashers are representing, like for the most part, except for Halloween Law, this team, so it's gonna be more 50-50 against fast slashers, this team. So it's more probably gonna be like this, because it kind of works sometimes, like in offensive and mirror matches. And then against tanky slashers, it does win, like I think in a similar way than this Raid Mihawk variation. maybe a little bit less, because against, for example, the Shankshu variation, it works kind of well, because the fixed damage is actually quite nice, but you have to have the B3 low max. But against the Rare Crit in Orashi, it doesn't work as well. So I'm gonna be leaving it a little bit under the raid Mihawk. And again, that's the problem of having the fast slashers mainly be represented by this team. It means that against fast slashers it's gonna be 50-50. So that's a little bit the inconvenience of this system of ranking teams. And then we have the rainbow team with Dofi in it. So I would say this team is kind of like here. So it kind of works well against against both of the variations, but not that well. So I would say it can win a little bit over the 50%, but not as high as you would want to main that team against those variations. So I will leave it kind of like here. Then we have the in team, which the in team, unfortunately, it kind of loses against the tanky slashers, but not as much, because it can be really tanky depending on the variation that you're using, but it kind of loses against, for example, the variation of Shankshu and the Rare Crit in Orashi. So I'm gonna be leaving it like this. And against fast slashers, I mean, I will leave it like this, because as I'm including a lot of variation, I understand that there's some variation that can actually beat some fast slashers, so I'm gonna be putting it a little bit over the 50%, but I'm gonna be doing it something like that. And then we have the 8-man rainbow team. So if you have seen my previous video, I showcased this team, and it works really, like, in theory, if you have the Kaku and these 3 units in the bench, it works really well, for example, against the fast slashers. So I'm gonna be putting it like this. And against the tanky slashers, it can work too, but I think it doesn't as much, because the thing is that the defense from Shankshu is kind of enough to tank the damage of your 3 bench unit specials, and your main 5 units do not have a lot of damage apart from Roger, which normally dies pretty early. So yeah, it kind of struggles against more tanky variation of the slashers, but I will leave it here on 50-50. And then we have the Shankshu variation. So the Shankshu variations against tanky slashers, the tanky slashers are basically represented by that same team, it's gonna be more 50-50. Again, the same problem. Against Rare Crit in Orashi, it kind of loses, so a little bit under the 50% against tanky slashers. And against fast slashers, so the same. I'm gonna be probably leaving it like this, so it's more like 50-50. It kind of loses against some variation of the fast slashers, but I'm not gonna put that it loses. I'm actually gonna put a little bit over 50%, because, for example, against a variation with Halloween Law, Shankshu resists a special ban in a 50% chance, and if that happens, then that's actually really good, because you can get some defense to tank the specials, and they don't have the B3 Law to give you the fixed damage. So that's why I'm gonna leave the Shankshu a little bit over the 50% against fast slashers, but 50% chance against tanky slashers. So then we have finally the variation with Halloween Law. So again, the same problem. Again, as it's mainly fast slashers are mainly represented by also this team, it's gonna be more 50-50. But I think it works really well, for example, against the B3 Law variation, in my opinion. Maybe it's because I don't have it, so it's gonna be a little bit over the 50% against fast slashers, and so a little bit better than the B3 Law. And then here, against tanky slashers, I think it can work, so I'm gonna be leaving it like kind of similar than this, really. I'm gonna be leaving it a little bit like that, so that you can see that here he's there. So yeah, it does not, I wouldn't really be maining the Halloween Law variation against the Shankshu variation, but I think it works a little bit over the 50%. But like this kind of things, it's like teams that work in both ways work a little bit over the 50%, because it's very different to be using an attacking team or a defense team. So yeah, it's kind of like this. So this is gonna be the first alignment chart, and now we're gonna be taking a look at the second alignment chart. So here we're gonna be taking a look at the second alignment chart. So as you can see, both of the axes are now represented by the rainbow team and the in team. So the rainbow team either includes the rainbow team with, for example, Odin, and also the 8-man variations of the rainbow team that I showcased in my previous video. And as for the in team, it includes all the variations of the in team, even the in crit team. So now the order in which we're going to be doing this is it's going to be a little bit different. So now we're going to be starting with the rainbow team with Dofi in it. So against, for example, the rainbow team, as it's more like the same team that it's represented by, it's gonna be more like here. So it's gonna be 50-50 even against the variation of the 8-man rainbow team. So it's 50-50 because it's both very tanky teams that can deal a lot of damage in the late game. So, and against the in team, I wouldn't say it loses. I think it kind of can win in some scenarios. If you tank the damage of, for example, against some variations of the in team, then you can that late game damage can actually be dealing a lot of stuff. So I'm gonna be leaving like that. That variation of the rainbow team, it's kind of more like a 50-50. So it's kind of 50-50 against almost anything. So it's not like ideal to run it against everything, but it's not bad too, definitely. So here we have the Dex team. So the Dex team kind of loses a lot against the in team, and also against the rainbow team, I would say. So I will probably leave it like here. And in the case of the side team, a little bit the same. I think it loses less against the in team because side team, for example, have Germa, which is giving enemies defense on level 2 and stuff like that, a lot of fixed damage. So even though if, for example, against the old school in team, you can be dealing a lot of damage, but against the rainbow team, I think it still loses. So I'm gonna be leaving it like that. Now we have the main B3 variation of the slashers, which everyone is using. So against the in team, it kinda works a lot, so I'm gonna be putting it like here. And then against the rainbow team, it also wins, but as for example the 8-man variations some 8-man variations can actually kind of counter this team. It's not gonna be as high, so it wins the majority of the rainbow teams, but not some of them. So it's gonna be like this. So like this. Now we have the in team, so the same. The in team is gonna be kind of hard because yeah, it's 50-50. So against the in team, it's gonna be more like this. But as I'm including a lot of variations inside the in team, I'm gonna be putting that it wins sometimes because you can change things around in depending on which in team you're facing or not. So yeah, and then against the rainbow team, I would kind of leave it like here because it's kind of 50-50. I think it kind of can win because if you change things around a little bit, you can plan a little bit better your win. So I think it kind of can win, but also like the rainbow team can tank a lot of your early damage, mostly if you're using the old school in team and stuff like that. So yeah, and then we have the 8-man variation of the rainbow team. So here with the rainbow team, against the rainbow team, it's kind of 50-50, but against a lot of rainbow teams, for example, all the variations of the rainbow teams with Odin, this team I think works pretty well because you can tank the special of Odin, and in the late game they only have like one unit in the bench and stuff like that, and you have a lot of damage late game. So I think it can work. I mean, not as well as some other teams will probably, and against the in team I think it kind of works too a little bit. So I'm gonna be putting it like this. So it depends obviously on the in team in particular, but I think it can definitely work. So I'm gonna be leaving them like here. So here we have the Shanksu variation, and this is gonna be the main one. As both of these axes are representing really tanky teams, you are probably right in assuming that this team is gonna be working really well against both of them. So against the rainbow team, it does win, and I think it's a little bit better, for example, than the other rainbow team. So against the rainbow team, it does win a lot, and against the in team, I think it's one of the best options that you can run against an in team. So it's gonna be like this because the in teams have a lot of defense and also some late game damage, and Shanksu is helping you with both of these things. Because apart from giving a health cut, he's also giving you a lot of defense, and that's gonna be able allow your team to tank a lot of damage, and then you still keep dealing high amounts of damage in the late game, which is what can beat the in team. So I think this is gonna be one of the best teams to run against the in team, for example. And then we have the Fortnite Inuarashi variation. So this one is kind of tricky because yeah, you're giving a lot of defense down, and both of these axes are representing teams that are really tanky. So I think it should work like over 50% against both variations, but I don't think it's like the most optimal way of doing this. So I'm gonna be leaving like this, so it's gonna be more like 55% chance against each of these variations. And then we have the 8-man team representing Fortnite Carrot. So this one is kind of tricky, but it's gonna be a little bit the same as this Fortnite Inuarashi, and I'm gonna be leaving it the opposite. So it kind of loses a little bit against all these variations, I think, because it's just a unit that is giving CT, but sometimes if you give too much CT, some in teams or some rainbow teams can have a lot of early damage. But for example, I think against the rainbow team, they need some seconds to get the rally under 60%, and if you manage to activate all your specials before the first 30 seconds pass, you can actually deal a lot of damage. So I think against the rainbow team it works a little bit better than against the in team. So I'm gonna be putting it like this. Now we have the Raid Mihawk, and that's a very interesting one because the same as Shankstru, this team works really well against tanky teams. So against the in team in particular, it's gonna be working. But I don't think it's going to be working, for example, as well as the B3 low variation. But against the rainbow team, it works a little bit better in my opinion. So I'm going to be leaving it like this because that massive health cut can really mess up the whole structure of a rainbow team and stuff like that. Then we have the rare recruit Inuarashi, and as I mentioned, this team is pretty insane, and I'm gonna be showing you some clips of this team. I mean, not clips, some images of the results of some matches of this team against all these variations, so you can believe me. But I don't really understand it that well, why it works that well. But well, it definitely beats the rainbow team, and in a majority of ways. I would say it's similar to the Raid Mihawk. And then against the in team, it does win. I would say higher than B3 Law. Not as high as the Shanks. I think Shanks is still the best team to run against an in team, and probably a rainbow team too. But I'm gonna be putting it like here. And then we have here the Halloween Law variation. So the Halloween Law, it's kind of interesting because yes, against in teams it will work too, and then against rainbow teams in general too. But the problem is that rainbow teams have a lot of shank screws, and if shank screw resists a special bind, it's kind of annoying. So that's why I'm gonna be leaving it a little bit under the B3 law variations against the rainbow team. But I think against the in team, I'm also a little bit lower than the B3 law, because the B3 law can actually debuff a lot of the in units, and Halloween law doesn't have that option. But it's definitely really close together. So that's gonna be it for the second alignment chart, and now we are gonna analyze all the results, and we're gonna be ranking in order the teams in which I think is the best order. So I think it's the strongest, but it's also my opinion, because some of this decision, it can be a little bit more to the right or to the left or up and down. So it's you see, but at least you can see the process of my thoughts in which I'm deciding these teams. So a team is gonna be better basically if it's closer to the diagonal here, and then it's like the most far away as possible to the center inside this diagonal. So we are gonna be between the two informations of the two alignment charts. We're gonna be doing kind of put together both of the results and then getting an approximate result inside this diagonal, and we're gonna be seeing which one is higher or lower. So without further ado, let's start actually with this. So we're gonna start to show the results of these two alignment charts. So what we're gonna be doing is basically look at both of these alignment charts, and then looking at the middle point between the two results and putting all the teams along this diagonal. So if they are more in here, it's gonna be that they are one of the best teams, and if they are more in here, it's gonna be that they are the worst team. So all the teams are gonna be in top of this diagonal. So we're gonna start with the Dex team. So now in the case of the Dex team, if we take a look at here, he is here, and then it's here. So it's gonna be quite low, I would say. So I'm gonna say the Dex team is somewhere around here probably. And then the next one is gonna be the Fortnite Inuarashi variation of the 8-man slashers. So if we take a look at both of the alignment charts, so here he is here, you cannot see it that well, and then here he is a little bit higher, so it's gonna be around here, so this spot, so over the 50-50 of each of both of them, so it's gonna be like here probably. Then we have the 8-man variation of the slashers with carrots. So in both of these, as you can take a look, yeah, both of these are like here, so it's gonna be here. So I'm gonna be putting it more to the center, I would say, but a little bit higher. So It's not gonna be straight up to the center, it's gonna be more like this. I mean, all of this it's a little bit approximation, but you can see a little bit the idea behind these reasonings, right? So now we have the rare recruit Inuarashi variation. Here is one of the top ones, and here he's the top one. So in both of these alignment charts, as you can see, it's a very similar spot, so I think I will be placing it just in the spot where he is in both of these alignment charts. I think a little bit lower. Yeah, I think more like here. Yeah, and I'm gonna be leaving it here for the moment. And the side team is gonna be a little bit better than the Dex team. It's gonna be here, because if you take a look, we can see here he's there and there. So yeah, a little bit the summarizing is here. Then we have the B3 law variation. So with the B3 law variation, let's see where we have to put him. It's not there, but so here we have it here, and then here. So here and here it's gonna be more like here, I would say. So definitely higher than this Fortnite Inuarashi, but lower than this one. So I'm gonna be placing it kind of here. Then we have the 6-man rainbow team with Dofi in it. So as you can see in both of these alignment charts, it's a very centered team, so it's gonna just stay centered. I would say a little bit lower than this carrot one, but very close together. Then we have the in team. So the in team, it goes like back and forth in terms of up and down. It's similar, but in terms of right to left, it's like this. So it's also gonna be in the center, and I think it's gonna be like this probably. Yeah. Then we have the 8-man rainbow team. As you can see, there's a lot of close together teams, so that's gonna be the deciding factor where I group all the teams inside tiers. So there's gonna be teams inside the same tier, because all of these results are very similar, and probably with this one too. So it's a little bit the subjective part comes into play, but I think inside tiers, these calculations show kind of well how I did my reasoning behind that. So yeah, now we have the 8-man rainbow team here and here. So if it's here and it was kind of here, it's gonna be more in this positioning. So it's gonna be probably like a little bit behind this Fortnite Inuarashi, but close to it and better than these other ones. And now we have the shank screw variation. So with the shank screw variation, as you can see here, it's the top team, but here we have it in the middle. So in between the top and the middle, it's gonna be around the middle, and I'm probably gonna be placing it a little bit lower than the B3 low one, but very close to it, so kind of like this. Then we have the Raid Mihawk. So the Raid Mihawk here is in the middle, and here is a little bit lower, so I would say a little bit lower than the shank screw. So also kind of in the middle of the diagonal, but like this, probably close to the shank screw. And then we have finally the Halloween law variation. So the Halloween law variation, it's kind of tricky because, well, it's here and then it's here. So here and here, I'm gonna be placing it also in the middle, but I think I'm gonna be placing it like just about almost the same spot as the B3 law variation, because they are very close together. So as you can see, this is the results. Now we're going to be taking a look at the official final result of the tier list, but you can see here there's a bubble of just one team, here there's a bubble of some teams, here there's more teams together, and then here just two group of teams of lower tiers. So as you can see, this is probably going to be a tier, this is going to be another tier, this is going to be a tier 2, and this is going to be maybe tier 3 and 4. So we're going to be taking a look now at all the results of the tier list and the official order of the teams that I have decided for this month. So here we have the final result. As you can see here on the top 4, tier 4, it's gonna be the Dex team because it's the lowest rated one, and then followed by tier 3 with the side team. So these two are kind of clear in the order that of the calculations that I did. And then we have all this group of teams which are kind of close together. I have decided to include this Fortnite Inuarashi inside the tier 2 instead of tier 1. I could have put him in tier 1, but I didn't want to have a lot of tier 1 teams, so it's gonna be the top of tier 2 but here. So I mean the order inside the tiers can definitely change because all these teams are very close together, so I decided to put it like this. So the top of tier 2 is gonna be the Fortnite 8-man team of Fortnite in Arashi, and then here the 8-man Rainbow team, followed by the In team and the Rainbow team. So all these teams though are really, mostly these three teams are really close together, so you could put the In team on top, maybe this here. So I mean you can change things around, and this I think it's the top of tier 2, but maybe you have some disagreements. So if you disagree, by the way, of the position of some teams, you can go check the beginning of the video in the moment where I was placing inside the two alignment charts each team, and you can see if you disagree with some of my reasonings there. So it's gonna be kind of easier to see where you disagree with, and if you want to test a team against a particular team that maybe I haven't tested and I have a wrong opinion about, then you can do it and maybe let me know in the comment section down below. But yeah, so here at tier 2 it's gonna be kind of like this, and I think the top team is gonna be this one, but follow very close together by these three teams. And then we have the tier 1. So the tier 1 here is gonna be all these teams that are inside of here, and if you can notice, the top team is gonna be the B3 Law, and then followed by here, you cannot see it really well, but the Halloween Law. So the Halloween Law, it's gonna be the second one, and the top is gonna be B3 Law, but definitely mostly between these three teams the order can definitely change, so you can change things around a little bit because it's a little bit subjective, because as you can see they are really close together in the result of the calculations that I did. And then I have decided also to include the raid Mihawk because it was kind of here, so it's the last team in tier 1, but definitely still an amazing team, and also because it's really high ranked because it was working really well against the Rainbow and the In team. So all these factors really matter. And then the tier 0 for me, it's this team. I mean, it's kind of more separated. It could be more close together here. I think it could be still like here maybe, but I just to show that it's a different tier. So yeah, here we have the tier 0, we have the 7-man team with Rare Recruit in Arashi, and you can also replace the Sova Mask by the Rare Recruit NL, and it still works really well, and it's amazing. Kind of, I like more the Rare Recruit NL variation, but yeah. So this team is amazing. It really surprised me when I started to test it for the first time, because I wasn't expecting it to perform in such an amazing way. But yeah, it's kind of really amazing. Now I will be showing you after I talk a little bit more about this tier list, some images of this team beating all the variations that I showed. So beating Rainbow teams, different variations of the Rainbow teams, different variations of the In teams, this team beating all these variations of the slashers, also beating some of these Rainbow team and stuff like that. And I mean I haven't footage of this beating the Sai and the Dex teams, but yeah, I mean it's unfortunate because these particular variations of the slashers are not really that common, so I cannot really test it that well against. But yeah, that could change things around a little bit, but definitely one of the strongest, and you will be seeing now in a moment why I mean that, and why my decisions inside the calculations had that team so high. So yeah. It's a kind of really interesting way to do this kind of tier list, and I feel at least that it's a better way to do it as I was doing before, and normally the tier list of best teams are done, because sometimes you can really surprise yourself. For example, I really surprised myself. My first idea was to put kind of Halloween Law higher than B3 Law, because I don't know, maybe it's because I don't have it. And I find this unit to be really interesting, and I really like it. So maybe I thought about putting the Halloween Law higher than B3 Law. It also surprised me that the Raid Mihawk variation was actually inside of tier 1. I was expecting it to be kind of like this. It surprised me also that the In team was I mean, it's not low tier 2, it's still an amazing team, but it was kind of like in this spot. I was expecting it to be more like here, but well, I mean, if I'm considering like slasher teams inside of here, it's normal that he is so low, because all these are slashers, so it's normal. But yeah, and then, well, the Dex team and the Int team, I was kind of expecting that. But yeah, you can really surprise yourself by doing this kind of calculations. So yeah, now though we are gonna be taking a look at all these result of matches using this tier 0 team, which I think it's, in my opinion, the best team that you can do right now. Maybe it's not the best team that you can run against everything. For example, we saw that in the against the Int team. I think it's better to run the Shanks crew variation, but it's the team that you can be the most confident about in just blindly going up against any team that you find. If you want to do that, then that's the best team you can do that with. But there's some variations that you have better options to run. For example, against the Int team, I think some Int teams it's better to run the Shanks crew. But yeah, so let's take a look at those results of matches. So if you want to see footage of this team beating the B3 law variation of the slashers or the Halloween law variations of the slashers, you can definitely go check out the video in which I showcased this video for the first time, which is basically the teams that I went up against, mostly the B3 variations. So you can go check those that video out, and you will see a lot of matchups with this team against the B3 law variation. But against now I'm going to be showing you up against other teams. So here we have the Inuarashi beating the 8-man rainbow team that I showcased in my previous video. Here we have another beating another rainbow team, this time with Dofi in it. Here another variation of a rainbow team with Stronghold Ace. Another 8-man rainbow team, so kind of like the one I showcased in my previous video. Here beating the old school Int team. Another Int team, this time with Halloween Law, and then with versus Big Mom there. So another rainbow team, this time with both of the Halloween Legends. Then another rainbow team with Halloween Law. Another another Int team with Halloween Law. This is against a rainbow team with Dofi in it. Another Int team, which is with Halloween Law. Then an old school Int team. The variation of the slashers with Shanks crew, another variation with Shanks crew, another variation with Shanks crew, another Int team with both of the Halloween Legends, another variation with Shanks crew, so another variation of the Int team with both of the Halloween Law and Halloween Shanks. So you see that there's a lot of matchups in which I was getting wins, and let me tell you, like in the middle of these matchups, I wasn't getting that many losses. I think I lost kind of like twice against some Int team, maybe some weird different composition of an Int team, but I won a lot of matchups against the Int team. So yeah, the success rate is really high, and the same goes for other variations. So here we have, for example, a weird variation of the slashers with Halloween Shanks. I decided to include that here. Another Shanks crew variation, another Shanks crew variation, another Shanks crew variation, another one, and here a B3 law variation, because I also decided to include some of these because I didn't really get to show a lot of matchups against Halloween Law in the video where I showcased this video. So here we have one, and then here a rainbow team with Luffy Sanji, another Halloween Law variation, another rainbow team, another Int team. This is for example a weird slasher team with both of the Halloween Legends, and that's it, I think. So I think I do not have more footage, but as you can see, I have done a lot of matches because I was trying to get the master mission done, so I had to do a lot of matches. So I decided to just prove against all of these different variations that this team is one of the best ones in my opinion. So I did all these matches, and I got a lot of results. And let me tell you again that I didn't really lose a lot of matchups while doing tons of match. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, so let me know in the comment section down below what you think, and if you think this way of doing a tier list is better than the previous ways that I was doing. I think in my opinion it is, because you can see more in a separate way each of the decisions, why am I doing something or not, and if you disagree with something, it's also easier to see where you disagree with me, and maybe you're right, and maybe it's just like that I haven't tested a particular team against a particular variation enough. So yeah, let me know in the comment section down below what you think of this result of the tiers. I'm pretty happy with the result, to be honest. and I am definitely really happy that this team actually got to be the top one, because it's one of my favorite teams. I don't know, and I'm let me tell you again that I'm using the rare recruit Enel instead of Sobomas there, but it's really strong. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and let me know again in the comment section if you disagree with something. The positioning inside each tier could change. For example, you could put like some changes in here, but yeah, the main idea is that. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and as always, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.